Welcome to Roll for Geekiness. I'm Jonathan,
Amanda.
and we just came back from KatsuCon.
Woo!
What's KatsuCon?
Are you going to give us a definition?
Ooh, I can give you the definition. KatsuCon defines itself
Oh, hold on.
as
Textbook time.
a 3-day fan convention held in the DC metro area for multicultural enthusiasts and entertainment. KatsuCon is produced by KatsuCon Entertainment Inc., an educational organization dedicated to bringing information about Japanese animation, society, and traditional and popular culture to fans everywhere. Yeah, it's a really long way of saying that's an anime con.
Yeah, there we go.
But it was more than an anime con, which is why I think the more roundabout definition, right? Because, in terms of their programming...
Yes, they covered lots of things, not just anime. So there were things about Japanese culture, such as tea ceremonies, woodworking. There were also things that, I guess the panel we went to on Yakuza falls into that as well, even though that was a little bit more off the cuff, for lack of a better term.
Or how different fashions inspired
yes.
Sailor Moon. There was like some definitely interesting panels, and yeah, most of those felt very anime or Japanese culture focused. There was cooking ones. The cooking one was totally packed. We couldn't even get into that one with our VIP badges.
Yes, and there were things that were a little bit more anime or cosplay focused as well. So, like you were saying earlier, Yaya Han was there and did a few panels.
She did a couple panels. Those were great.
And I do know there were certainly more specific anime focused panels, but I don't know that we attended a ton of those.
No, and what else? I mean, they had a couple dances like every night, and there was a cosplay contest. All the usual stuff, so to say.
Yes.
That
was kind of the extent.
And of course, like a vendor's room, an artist alley. What else? All the usual kind of things that you would expect at a large convention of about 20,000 people.
Yeah, I think maybe the only difference is I saw a little bit more in the way of dance-offs or dance-focused things or things around J-pop than you would typically see at a con, which makes sense for this venue. But
right.
That about it for programming in terms of... I mean, there was a lot more, but that covers the bases, I think, in general.
Yeah, something like voice acting, which again ties into like the anime focus.
Yep.
Yeah. Costuming, they were definitely like more on costuming because Japanese culture and anime. So yeah. So what about cosplay?
Yes, there was. I was about to say there was a lot of cosplay happening, more so than I think any event we've been to.
I think
thus far.
Yeah, I think we were sitting there at one point going, it felt like maybe 70% of the people there were in cosplay, which is tremendous. You looked around and it felt like almost everybody was in costume of some sort. So.
And it was really cool because there wasn't just anime cosplay going on. There were lots of different fandoms and lots of things, honestly, that I didn't even recognize, too. But I was like, wow, it's a really cool costume. So I think the breadth of cosplay people were doing through anime was pretty wide. And then...
Yeah, there's certainly, like, old and new anime well represented, obviously. Yes. I think I was surprised by, like you said, the breadth. I think I saw more Critical Role cosplayers here than we even saw at like New York Comic-Con or Dragon Con. It was huge. Yeah. And then you'd still see, and I think this is kind of what surprised me at an event that is ostensibly mostly an anime con, you'd still see Harley Quinns and Iron Men and Captain America and Star Wars and Disney princesses and the whole gamut, which, I mean, cool.
Yeah.
But a little surprising because I think I expected to see more of a focus on the anime, given the event.
Yeah, I'd say there was a pretty good split here. I don't know what your thoughts are about this, but there were definitely lots of people just running around in pre-made store-bought cosplays, but there was also a lot of people who would handmade props or, hand sewn or machine sewn, right, what they were wearing. There's quite a bit of...
The bar was high.
Yeah, yeah.
The bar was high. Yeah, like you said, I mean, certainly the people that were in, the Mick costumes version of something, or the store-bought costumes weren't out of place,
No.
but you could also look around and see a lot of stuff that had a high degree of craftsmanship in it. And whether that was something that person had made themselves or commissioned elsewhere, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was very cool to look around and see so many people who are also obviously makers doing their thing in terms of cosplay.
Yeah. And this was a really good venue to get your photos done. One again, going back to the programming a tiny bit, one of the things that was on the schedule like all the time were different meetups for different fandoms, and usually that just involved like, let's take a lot of pictures together, different characters, all the same characters, we'll mix it all up. But the Gaylord National Convention Center is also just a really good venue for photography in general. You've got a good mix in the atrium of like different style buildings and just like, gardens with water features. And so I think a lot of people were kind of there to get some photos taken. We took a whole bunch ourselves just because it was hard to pass up.
There's I don't know if I want to say shocking, but there was a really high number of people who seemed to have their own photographers, or photographers who obviously had people booked back to back who were running around finding the next person they were going to be shooting.
There were a lot of photographers there. Actually, that was one of the first meetups, was the photographers meetup.
Yes.
So there were definitely a lot of photographers that were there to work all weekend, and like you said, probably had back-to-back shoots booked.
Yeah.
Well in advance.
Yeah, which was cool. It was just not like any other con I've been to in terms of the number of people that seemed to be doing that, or the number of photographers running around.
Yeah, it definitely seemed to be a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so the convention itself had a whole bunch of rules, like most conventions do, and a lot of them seemed like they were for reasons, like, no loud music, no open, alcohol containers, costumes that actually cover all of, the bathing suit bits, so to say. It felt like every one of the rules I just mentioned was like optional, and maybe that depended on the time. It certainly depended on the time of day.
Yeah, totally did.
The bathing suit bit one was definitely like an after 10 p.m. 50-50.
I don't know that you need to wait till 10 p.m. I feel like there were plenty of people, which is fine. They had very specific cosplay rules around like what needed to be covered, and I think people stretched those, I'll say, as much as they could to kind of like sometimes get away with a certain costume.
Yeah, but after 10 p.m. there was definitely just here's a piece of tape.
Just one. There was definitely a lot more laxness around that. So there did seem to be a set of rules, but I don't know that a lot of people were following them. And I will say that for the most part, with the masking rules that they had in place, it did seem like a lot of people followed those. I think, once again, depending on where you were at in the venue and what time of day it was, I think the adherence to those rules changed.
Yeah, that was definitely one where you could look around and sometimes it looked like it was good and sometimes it didn't. And if you had to go through a badge checkpoint, they were checking that you were wearing your masks, but they're only checking badges when you're going into panels or going into the vendor's room. And so if you were just hanging out in the larger convention space,
yeah, 50-50.
like 50-50.
Yeah.
And that was a rule that was supposedly being enforced by the con and the convention center.
Yeah. Which
there are a lot of people, and I don't know how you have enough volunteers to really police that and make sure that people like do it after the volunteer walks away. You can say put on your mask, and then you turn around, and it's going to come back off again, right? Like if somebody doesn't want to wear it, they're not going to wear it, right?
Right.
But yeah, I know that there were definitely some people that had issue with that,
Yeah.
both during and after the con. So Yeah, and it definitely felt that KatsuCon Entertainment Inc. May not have had enough volunteers to enforce even its own rules at various points in time. And, I think part of that was because this felt like a party con, right?
Yeah.
If we were 20 years younger, I think we would have been right there in the thick of the drinking and the dancing and the having fun with a bunch of friends. And that, if that's what you're there at the con for, like, cool, go for it. Like,
totally.
I'm not going to take that away from you at all. But that was definitely the vibe of this con. And so, yeah, like trying to enforce some of those rules after
No.
a certain time in the evening,
No.
yeah, I mean, not going to happen. And I don't know that I can fault the con for that, but I could definitely see how some people might draw issue with that too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, as you said, this was a good con to go to, though, if you just want to go with some friends and hang out. It's good if you're expecting everyone, though, to adhere to the rules, or you're expecting a certain amount of structure, we'll say, not so much.
not so much.
So, how do we rate KatsuCon on the overall scale of whatever we choose?
I would give it 6 kawaii pandy bears on a scale of 10.
I was going to go a different route.
Well, I mean, we had fun, but ultimately I'm not sure that it was our event.
Yeah, I would give it similar. I was going to give it 13 out of 20 thong bathing or bodysuits, because I feel like it was around the same, a little bit over the half mark. It wasn't.
There were more than 13 of those.
That's why I said 13 out of 20, and there were definitely more than 20.
Maybe 13 out of every 20. Yeah, that seemed accurate.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. There's definitely a certain vibe, and I feel like if you're going for certain things like photos, you're going with friends, you're into the party vibes, and it's a good fit.
So I guess on that note, it's time to roll the die.
15.
Appropriate. Duct tape is not a costume.
Yeah, remember that, kids.
Till next time.
Bye.